Before going into this, ask yourself this question. Is Williams better off with Sargeant than Latifi? Let me know in the comments. Logan Sargeant was announced by Jos Capito to replace Nicholas Latifi for the 2023 season when he was promoted from a test driver role. And actually at the time there was a lot of positivity about this. I mean, it was quite exciting with the prospect of seeing an American F1 driver on the grid again. However, this was only if he managed to obtain the necessary amount of points to obtain a super license from the FIA. And then I think we all thought, here we go again. Jos Capito, the Williams team principal, said that his nationality was absolutely not a key factor when promoting him to a race seat. In F1 language, this translates to it was absolutely a key factor when promoting him. Honestly, in recent years at Williams, it seems that if you come from a wealthy background, have a commercially convenient nationality, and happen to convert oxygen to carbon dioxide, you too can be an F1 driver. By the way, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to try and grow this as much as possible so I can continue to bring you more F1 content. Prior to the 2023 season though, things were looking mildly up at Williams. James Vowles was announced as team principal, Albon extended his contract, and also Gulf Oil was announced as a sponsor, so yeah, things were looking pretty good. But the icing on the cake was that Nicholas Latifi had been replaced by this young rookie, Logan Sargeant. And this was awesome because surely Sargeant had to be better than Latifi, right? So fast forward to the final third of the 2023 season. It's safe to say that Sargeant's season has been difficult. Well, dreadful. Post-Japanese Grand Prix, Sargeant's season has yielded 0 points. Meanwhile, Albon has managed 21 points. There's a big repair bill where there's been multiple accidents and chassis written off. In particular, during qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix, Sargeant completely wrecked his car, writing off the chassis. So the Williams pit crew and the team had to put together effectively a third car out of any spares and bits and pieces they could find so that he could actually take part in the race. And literally all he had to do with that was just get it to the finish line. And guess what? During the race, he dinged that too and had to retire. A situation like this, I don't really care how Sargeant feels. I feel more for the crew at Williams who had to work tirelessly and for God knows how many hours just to put this new third car together. His best position of the season was 11th at the British Grand Prix, but ever since, he hasn't been anywhere near the top 10. And as a final nail in the coffin, Albon has outqualified Sargeant at every single race so far this season. So what happens now as we're quickly approaching the end of the 2023 season? So Sargeant C is the only one that is still unconfirmed on the grid, and as you can expect, there is a lot of question about it, and there is potentially going to be a big scramble for whoever can get it. It is still very much up for grabs, and there have been many names floating around as potential candidates for the seat, such as Mick Schumacher, Liam Lawson, Nick De Vries, and Aston Martin's reserve driver Felipe Drugovich. By the way, I know I suggested Sergio Perez as a potential candidate for the seat, but I'm pretty sure after the race at Japan, his application form was thrown in the bin by James Vowles. James Vowles has been clear many times that actually Sargeant was a Jos Capito signing. And when Vowles was over at Mercedes previously, there was an opportunity to take on Sargeant for the Mercedes junior team, which he passed on because clearly he didn't think he was good enough. However, Sargeant managed to make it on to the Williams Junior program and therefore into Formula 2. And this Formula 2 seat developed into a Williams test driver position, which then naturally evolved into a Williams race seat. So now that we're in the James Vowles era at Williams, I really hope that he implements a driver setup which is much more complete, that doesn't involve the clear, competent driver and obvious kind of pay driver who's in the seat because of a name or a backing or something like that. So now we arrive at this. Is the problem Logan Sargeant? Is it Williams? Or is it F1 itself? I mean, Sargeant has some good things on his side, such as youth, and I'm sure he's very determined, but the issue is that he's not beating Albon in any of the sessions, and plus he keeps costing Williams in accidents. If he was quick and able to beat his teammate but still had these accidents, kind of like Pastor Maldonado used to do, you could work with this. This is something that you could look past and you could kind of grow and develop. So he might get an extra year or two. I know that later in the season, Albon has been given the higher spec of car and his performance has been a bit better and he's been getting into the points. But I think with Sargeant, the pressure is just kind of getting to him a bit, and I don't really see the potential there, unfortunately. But F1 is a cutthroat sport. Williams need to stop messing around and get back up into the thick of the midfield fight and eventually progress towards the top three again. And in order to do this, they need two consistent drivers who are firing on all cylinders and can just notch up the points at every single Grand Prix. But you can also ask Williams, was it really that wise to put an average F2 driver who managed to scrape into a super license into a race seat? But as I said before, Jos Capito probably didn't have a choice. He probably had to do it because of Drolton Capital. And of course, James Vowles is probably going to want to scrap everything and put it absolutely right by bringing in a promising pair of hands, such as last year's F2 champion Drogovic. But then could F1 do more to help rookies and enable them to develop? I mean, considering how years ago when Hamilton or Vettel entered the sport, they could notch up hundreds and hundreds of miles in testing and really kind of get to the grips with the feel of the car and get out any kind of wrinkles or issues they had. But unfortunately, this unlimited testing was banned in 2007, so now the best these rookie drivers can hope for is some simulator work and a bit of testing here and there throughout the season, some pre-season testing and maybe a little bit in the middle of the year, but it's not much and it doesn't really seem enough. But then again, we've seen rookie drivers like Piastri and Lawson arrive and hit the ground running, so why is it then Sargeant is still struggling? I mean, the two simplest things I can think of is just straight up natural driving ability and where his head is at, so mental health as well. I mean, something that's strange about F1, and particularly with teams lower down the order, is that if a driver's confidence and his head has just completely fallen off a cliff, the team will just kind of leave him out there to fail and to rot, rather than switch him out with the reserve driver, let him just get his head together and sort himself out, and when he's right, put him back in. I mean, we're told that F1 is a team sport after all. And let's say earlier in the season, if they did switch Sargeant out for the reserve driver, he could just kind of sit back and just absorb things and just get himself together and boost his confidence, and he could be out for maybe 2 or 3 races, arrive back on the grid a new man. As I said, after all, we're told it's a team sport, and surely that sort of thing would be best for the team. But look, I think whatever happens with Sargeant's seat for 2024, if you came to him years from now and you asked him truthfully in his heart of hearts, were you ready for F1? I'd be astonished if he said yes. I don't want to be negative, and I'm not trying to knock him or anything, but I was really behind him, and I really believed that he could just get out of whatever funk he was in and get into the points and start to build things up. But I think after what we saw in Japan, I think that is just the end of the road now, and I'd be amazed if he is given any kind of future at Williams after this season. So I think Williams really need to change gears now and start looking at a replacement. I mean, do I think Sargeant should be signed for 2024? I don't think he should, but given that Williams is owned now by Drolton Capital, this big American investment firm, I really wouldn't be surprised if he is kept on for 2024, to be honest. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Give us a like and stay tuned for some more F1 content. Thanks very much.